be here to speak to you guys. Wanted to talk a little bit about some of the changes that have occurred since the last QDR. In particular, for the National Guard anyway, the most significant change since the last QDR has been the 2008 National Guard Empowerment Act. As a result of that Empowerment Act, the Department of Defense issued a new directive that talks to how the National Guard will relate to the Department of Defense. This diagram here shows what the paragraphs out of the charter as far as how the Secretary of Defense and the National Guard Bureau through the service chiefs for Title X matters, as well as the National Guard being able to provide advice and information directly to the Secretary of Defense through the chairman on matters concerning the non-federalized Guard. I think what's key there is what non-federalized Guard means and what it doesn't mean. Some might construe that to be domestic. It's not. And some might construe that to be state missions. It's not. We've done a number of missions historically that are in a non-federalized status, but are a federal mission, and some are not even domestic. In order to implement what that charter says, we've established a framework for how, in this next QDR, we plan to engage with the department and provide our insights and our advice to both the Army and the Air Force, as well as to the Joint Staff and OSD. Some of the statutory changes within pertaining to the QDR itself. In the FY07 National Defense Authorization Act, there are 4 major changes. One was the fact that the QDR should not be constrained by the President's budget, that part of the advice needs to include things that are in addition to what that might mean in order for us to meet the strategy 20 years from now. The need for identifying specific capabilities, numbers and types of platforms, and of key to the reserve components, I think, is this assessment of the Department's Homeland Defense and support to civil authorities missions. What the types of organizations that the Department needs and the types of capabilities in order to perform each of those missions. And then the SecDef has to establish a panel to conduct an assessment of the QDR. In addition, in the FY08 National Defense Authorization Act, 2 key things were this addition for this QDR up here, the one coming up, to examine the capabilities and the ability of the armed forces to respond to climate change. And once again, what's interesting to note is they want us to discuss both how we will respond to that OCONUS, as well as how we need to be able to be positioned to do that here in the United States. And then, of course, the comprehensive assessment, now that the Department has done the quadrennial roles and missions review, which is in the process of being completed right now for delivery, I believe, before February. General Summerall mentioned what the reserve components bring to the warfight. Want to talk about 4 things that we've talked about. He mentioned one of them, which was basically bringing America to the warfight. And that kind of talks to this first attribute, which is this linchpin between our nation's military and the nation's citizens. The reserve components are located within 5,000 different communities. They have daily contact at the local level, and based off that daily contact, they're able to show America on a daily basis what it means to be a part of the military, as well as what it means to contribute to the nation's defense, their contributions to the nation's defense. By reaching out and engaging the American citizens through the National Guard and Reserve, I think the department can help, or we can help the department revitalize our armed forces and that connection back to the citizenry. Cost effectiveness, numerous studies in the past, as well as I think the Commission on the National Guard and Reserves brought out the point where the National Guard and the reserve components, all the reserve components, are a very cost-effective contribution. Anywhere from 25% to 50% of the cost of an active component. Now, of course, the question is, are they ready and available when you need them? I think based off of the experience we've had over the last 6 years, almost 6 years, I think we've proven that that is in case we can count on them. And of course, given the fiscal pressures that General Summerall mentioned, I think being cost-effective and providing a cost-effective solution that is also able to do the mission will be critically important in the next QDR. Civilian acquired skills have been mentioned in previous, in the QDR 2006. The civilian acquired skills, those skills that the reserve component men and women bring as part of their contribution, what they do in their civilian world, has enabled them to be more effective in a lot of the types of environments we find ourselves in today, as well as the environments we'll find ourselves in the future. I think the department would benefit greatly by leveraging and trying to find a way to incentivize or to utilize those civilian acquired skills as we do our missions, whether here in CONUS or do our missions OCONUS. And then, of course, this ability to be accessible, an accessible capability to the governors in order for us to be able to serve our citizenry either as during natural disasters or in civil support missions here in the United States. Having a National Guard that can contribute to both our federal mission as well as our state mission, our state roles, under whether either a state status or a federal status, will be important for us to be able to help the department meet its needs in the next QDR. And I'm done.